Now. Bueno, Katia, te doy la bienvenida. Gracias. I want to thank you very much for joining us and for sharing some
Thank
of your
you.
time.
Thank you for inviting me.
I
Very happy to be here and practice my English.
Well, good. No, that's perfectly fine. I first learned about Katia through LinkedIn and her posts, and I saw really an amazing individual with a really good, ambitious drive and a good vision, a very good networker, and I think she has a lot of useful information for people. And I think people outside of Cuba don't know what the challenges are of running a business in Cuba, being a woman, right, in Cuba, a female entrepreneur. So I invited Katia to come and speak to us to share her experience. So we'll get going. This is going to be a very easy format. I'll ask a couple questions. We'll have Katia talk, and then certainly any questions you, the audience, may have, we would welcome that. So Katia, my first question is, how did you start? How did you start this idea that you have your business?
I created a blog in 2019, June 2019. I was working in an state enterprise, and I decided to create the blog because I wanted to talk about digital communication in Cuba. I wanted to connect professionals, brands, institutions through this new world in Cuba of internet and social media and online communication. So I thought maybe no one's going to read this blog, but the fact was it became very popular and soon. And so I decided to create an agency. Basically, I called it La Penúltima Casa, like the blog. So in March, I quit my job and I decided to become a full entrepreneur, doing strategies, campaigns, communication plans for, I don't know, enterprises and some embassies and entrepreneurs too. So it was quite hard at the time because the pandemic arrived on March 2020, yes. So the same month I decided to run my business alone. The pandemic arrived to Cuba and it was quite hard at the moment. I thought I'm not going to survive, but the agency was good, was a good idea. And after that, I decided to be closer to the entrepreneurial sector in Cuba. And to do it, I launched a podcast. So I interviewed the biggest entrepreneur in this country, business with this idea of sustainability and social responsibility. And the podcast was successful, basically. A lot of people wanted to listen to my podcast, wanted to be interviewed in my podcast. So I think it was a good way to position La Penúltima Casa inside this entrepreneurial sector and to get contacts, a good network of allies to work with. And so I created the blog, the agency, the podcast, and then I launched Info Products because I really wanted to do something more educational, not to help only one client at the same time, but to help many people. So I launched Info Products, something not explored in Cuba at that time. We were the first business creating info products that maybe you would say, well, that's very common in the rest of the world, not in Cuba, because among other things, we have no e-commerce, for example. So it was really difficult to get payments from info products, but we did it. We found out a way to do it, and info products like ebooks, courses, guides, and it was quite successful too. So events was the next thing we did. we created an online event during the pandemic, 2021, I think, with 400 participants, and it was great, using Telegram, using YouTube, using alternative ways to help people with poor internet connection. And also we invite people from abroad, from Spain, US, Argentina. So it was great to connect that knowledge outside of Cuba with people inside, to offer a bigger perspective about what to do and how can we approach to these languages of internet and digital communication. So the blog, the podcast, InfoPlus, events, and after that workshops and conferences. Universities invited us to do things with them, to collaborate. So that was great because we get closer to entrepreneurs, to enterprises, and to universities. So now it's been like 3 years doing that, and it's quite hard. It's still difficult, very, very difficult. But at the same time, it's good to do something, to transform, to create, to do different things in Cuba. I think that's something that we really need here.
No, that's very good. Very good explanation. Now, as you had these thoughts and these ideas, was there any person who inspired you to do this?
Well, I'm not sure. I think I was always trying to follow people outside of Cuba because we have no good examples here. You have to, I don't know if you know that. You should know because you're very, you're Cuban basically. Advertising, public relations, marketing were forbidden in Cuba before. We couldn't do that. So we didn't have good examples on that. We had to follow people from outside of Cuba. When I studied social communication, and I studied advertising, marketing, public relations, and all examples, all good reference in the world were from US, from Europe, basically, some from Latin America, but no one from Cuba. Because, of course, no había nada. So I really wanted to create this space. That's why La Penúltima Casa is like a house to gather people doing this, and hopefully with good ideas and projects to grow and to create and to develop and to improve in doing communication, doing marketing, doing advertising, doing public relations in Cuba, and create good market for these people to work here.
Okay, that sounds very inspiring. I mean, and yes, I do know Cuba and the challenges you've had with advertising and promotions. It's what you're doing is incredible, Katia, and I'm glad you're doing it because more people need to have access to this, and you're providing a very valuable service. Yeah, my next question you already answered. What were the challenges? But I'm going to ask you this now: as a woman, do you face any additional challenges? See, I think you're frozen. Jacob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, looks like she froze. I mean, this happens, you know, with Cuba, unfortunately, a lot. It's the connection just goes. So we'll just wait and until she gets here. But until she comes back, I'll just let you know. Yeah, she really is an amazing person because she's done. Oh, there she is. Okay, she has such a drive.
So sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll explain to Jacob. No need to apologize. We know how it is. But my question to you, Katia, was as a woman, is it a little more difficult for you to be a business person and entrepreneur than a Cuban man?
Yes.
Okay, that's she'll be back. This happens all the time, but you know, it's you probably know the term machismo, Jacob. It's
Basically, yeah.
there it is.
When you're trying to I'm here. Okay, are you listening?
Yes, we can hear you.
I would say most people, when I oh, you're so young. Oh, look at you. Can you really do that? And I always thought if a man with my age is doing this job, he's going to be so high profile, so well known or respected. And people are always looking at my hair or my weight. I'm very thin, so people are always like, "Oh, you're so thin. Oh, you're so young. Oh, can you really do this?" And I don't think so. I'm trying to help more women to become entrepreneurs in Cuba, because it's quite difficult. There's no laws to protect violence, for example. Gender violence is something really primitive in Cuba right now. When you're walking on the streets, men, basically men, always men, say awful things to you. Maybe in 3 blocks, you walk 3 blocks, and 3 blocks you find like 10 men saying something nasty, something that you don't want to hear. And I think maybe there's not a direct cause to affecting entrepreneurs, but yes, it is, because it affect our mental health, affect our projection, affect our security, our confidence. And yes, it's quite difficult. And also, you know, the economy is quite harder for women than men. Quite harder to negotiate, to give proper value to our work. If we are women and people are saying, "Oh, you're so young," of course I'm going to feel that maybe I should lower my prices to you know, it's easier to just lower your prices and give less value to your job. So yes, I would say it's difficult for women. It's more difficult for us here.
You know, I've seen it, having lived in Cuba for a number of years. It's really amazing to see the brazen behavior of some men towards women. But I'm gonna
Harassment is a huge problem here.
Yeah.
Huge.
No, it's terrible. But I'm going to mention 2 things to you, and
Yes.
Jacob, I think Katia will help us with this. If I say to you, la segunda jornada, the second shift, right? That's what women have to do. ¿Entiendes? No? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Why don't you tell Jacob a little bit about what la segunda jornada is, and then also just a very basic explanation of el código de la familia, the family code, which is a new. Yes, I saw that expression, and that's why I asked you. Okay.
I'll try to explain that in English. Yes, la doble jornada, no? This is the name. Well,
Yeah,
basically,
doble jornada, yeah.
yes, basically, women still having all the most responsibilities at home. So at home with children, with all people in the family. So they have to work outside in the office or in other places, and then go back to home, to the houses, and start working there with no payment. It's like doble jornada, 2 jobs, but only one of them is paid. Yes, and when you start a new job, or when you, recently we had situation with that. Some business saying, I'm not hiring women, only women from 18 to 35 with no children and white and beautiful and all that. So thank you. So there's no laws to control that. Any laws control that. Any business can say, yes, I won't hire a black woman, or women with children. I don't want to do it, and that's perfectly fine. That's allowed. It's affecting a lot of women, of course, because as long as they are having the responsibility for children, they can't get good jobs, basically, in the private sector and state sector too. And family code, well, that's quite hard to explain. I think the biggest achievement, can I say that, family code is that now LGBT community has more rights, like for example, marriage. Previously, it wasn't allowed, and I think that's one of the things that we got with this code. That's why even people against the government, or the most times they don't go to vote, they voted to guarantee these rights to LGBT community. And also because offers more stability to families and support to children from violence, for example, inside homes. And I think that's a big step, considering considering all everything that's happening here. And yes, it's positive. I think it's good. It's good for us. But still, there is still a lot of price to achieve here. I mean, it's a big step. It's a baby step at the same time. We have a lot to do.
You're right. It takes time to do these changes, but I think I like to think that Cuba is going in the right direction. You know, I think you know, people like you are inspiring future generations. I think that's the most important thing, and certainly the Código de la Familia, the family code, that's secondary really, because you know, laws, it takes time to really have any kind of effect. Whereas someone networking like you personally work with people, that really has a more profound effect, more immediate, more long lasting. So I think that's very, very good. So what I will do now, I have another question, and then I'll let you speak. And then if anyone else has any questions, they can go ahead. My final question, Katia, is what advice would you give to a young Cuban who wants to start their own business?
I would say, be aware of the challenges. Basically, economy, the inflation now is huge. Before, $1, for example, was 24 CUP, which is national currency. $1 was equal to 24 CUP. Now, $1 is 120 CUP officially, and the black market is 180. So this reordenamiento, this new measure affected a lot to the economy and Cuban businesses, because now we have to fix prices in dollar, but people in Cuba, they don't have dollars, most of them. So that's something challenging, because you don't want to exclude people. You want to survive as an entrepreneur, but you don't want to leave people behind. So you have to be very careful with that. So I would say that be aware of the economy issues and the troubles, that it's going to be very hard to get over this situation right now. And at the same time, this other big trouble or challenge, which is the exodus. These people are leaving the country, especially young, talented people. So if you want to create a good team, you have a lot of chances to lose them because they want to they go to Nicaragua. They buy a flight ticket to Nicaragua and they do this travesty. We call it the La Travesía, from Nicaragua to US with hundreds and thousands of migrants, or they get scholarships, mostly in US or Spain, Mexico, UK. They get scholarships, they go to scholarships. So probably you are going to lose your great team. So you have to change it very frequently. So being aware of that is very important. After that, you have to be certain that you want to create a business to help to change your reality, not to make money. If you want to make money, leave the country, go away, because the easiest way to do it. Here, businesses are helping people all the time, changing things all the time, transforming, being or creating projects to help. In my case, for example, professionals doing communication, they have no guidance, so we're offering guidance to them. And women entrepreneur trying to stand out in Cuba, and we're helping women with projects, with workshops, talking about negotiation, talking about communication, talking about mental health. So that's very important. You have this perspective of I want to help people with my job, and at the same time I have to find a way to be sustainable, because of course I have to make money with that. So that would be my advice.
That's a very thorough description. That's a great advice, and you gave a good explanation of the landscape. Yeah, I like that word, la travesía, for Cubans who are going through Nicaragua and Honduras, through Mexico to the United States, literally, thousands upon thousands per month.
Yes.
And that is really devastating to the Cuban economy, which is in bad shape to begin with.
Young people, talented people,
yeah,
entrepreneurs are doing that all the time.
It's unbelievable. I do have one last question, and then I'm going to turn over to Jacob or Bill or Megan. When do you think, Katia, we will see a female Cuban president?
Okay. I don't know if I can answer to that. Basically, we need a new president to say that, because we had the same president, the same person in the government for how many years? I was born with the same person, and I was adult, and I had the same president. Basically, I didn't see another thing in my country. So yes, we need a women president. More, I would say, we had women representation, for example, in los diputados en la Asamblea Nacional. We have women representation. But what we really need is women with projects, with ideas, with plans. That's what we need. Because there are a lot of women doing nothing there. Just saying, yes, I agree with this. I agree with this law. Not doing any proposal, any activity to change, to transform, to improve what we have to do. I mean, we have so many troubles. You can pick just one of them and you're going to do great change. So yes, I think yes, maybe a Cuban a woman president will be the solution, but I don't think so. I think the solution is empower women to create projects from the politics, from the business, from the social projects or communities, you know, social media. Empower women first. I think that's a huge task, and after that, probably, hopefully, we will have more women doing things in the government.
Yes, I think you're right. It is about female empowerment. And it will unfortunately take time, but I hope Cuba could make it, because like you, I know so many Cuban women that have these ideas, this drive, but as we say in English, the cards are so stacked against them. It's very difficult for them to do. Okay, I've been talking a lot, so Jacob, anyone else would like to ask a question or a comment? All right, good. Jacob, go ahead. Okay. You're going to do chat. I see. Can you see the chat, Katia? He's saying, whoops, disappeared. Hold on for a minute. What advice? Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
Inspiring entrepreneurs. I would say I was very scared when I started to do this. I'm still scared. I mean, if I have to do this talk today with you, I'm scared because I'm not very good at English. So I'm going to practice with you, but at the same time, I feel a bit scared. Well, I'm not so sure about doing this. And we're always going to be scared about something as entrepreneurs, because you are jumping all the time to the unknown, basically. We don't know if this is going to work. We don't know if that's a good idea. In my head, it's great, but when I'm going to put this idea when I'm going to land this idea to actually do it, maybe it's not great. Maybe it's going to fail. Maybe a lot of people will see that you're failing. So that's very scary, I would say. And if I have to give an advice, is you have to be over that. You have to know that sometimes you're going to fail. It's going to be huge, and that's fine. Because that will help you to improve, to do better things, to gain more experience, and to be better as an entrepreneur. You have to fail again and again and again, and probably one of those ideas, maybe you have 150 ideas and only one of them is good. Well, that good idea is going to be bigger, it's going to be bigger than all your failures. So yes, I would say do it even if you're scared.
That's great advice. Jacob's second question is, do you enjoy reading? If so, is there a book or topic you recommend?
About entrepreneurship or communication or any book, I would say yes, I like to read, and I like to read Cuban authors because they offer a view about my reality from the past. And I think it's quite interesting to read Alejo Carpentiero. Voy a escribirlos por acá si quieren. Alejo Carpentiero, Manuel Cofiño, or Cuban poets like Dulce María Loinaz, for example. It's great. I love Cuban literature. And about entrepreneurship, I don't know. Maybe these books about lean startup. I think yes, Dulce María Loina. Yes. Lean methodologies, I think they're good to start to do things. And I'm very focused on read or find these books to read. I have to read those books through my computer because we have no access to these books in physical. I mean, we have no physical books about entrepreneurship in Cuba to buy. So so I found the books, the digital version of the books, and I read them there. Yes. I'm going to write.
Well, while you're writing, I
Yes.
think, as you know, Katia, I will be returning to Cuba in January. So maybe, and Jacob, Bill, maybe Megan, if you know any books, good entrepreneur books or business books, I'm happy to take them to Katia if you know any, especially if there's any that are published by faculty there at Miami University. Just let me know.
That would be great. Thank you. Yes.
Jacob asked you another question. What is your favorite dish?
Mine.
What Cuban dish do you like? Yuca or
That's
Malanga?
the traditional Cuban
The
food.
traditional? Okay.
Yuca with garlic
Yeah.
and lemon and rice, congri, is rice with beans, black beans, and pork. Basically, that's what we eat. That's what we traditionally eat on New Year's, for example, New Year's Eve. But I like pasta a lot. And I'm very focused now eating healthy food, just lettuce and cabbage and tomato and potato and all that. Very
Thank you.
focused on that right now because it's quite important, and there are a lot of troubles with food in Cuba right now. I'm trying to get healthier food to eat these days. I would recommend a restaurant in Cuba if you're coming soon. Jibaro is a great restaurant. They have a very nice concept about social responsibility, and I do like the views and the ideas and the results. The food actually is quite good and different to other offers in Cuba. And I would recommend that restaurant. It's very near my house in Havana Vieja.
Good.
And yes, maybe you can go there. They recently won an award in Mexico.
Good.
So yes, about sustainability and all that. So yes, it's a good place to visit and to learn from them.
Very good. Well, I love Cuban food and I love Cuban music. I just can't dance because it's because I have Latino blood in me, but it doesn't reach my feet. I have concrete feet. So that's why I will never dance. Maybe someday, but no, but yeah, the situation there in Cuba, I was there, like I said, just last week, and it was markedly different than the last time I saw it, which was in February. And I just hope I just hope it improves. And just, Jacob and Bill and Megan, just to give you an idea, Katia was talking about the difficulty, about the inflation. A carton of eggs there costs up to $80 in Cuba. Milk is practically non-existent. So we'll be taking some powdered milk in January. These prices are absolutely ridiculous. And it's something that I wish more Americans would understand, because what the Miami Cubans have done is that they have converted the Cuban people into an abstract concept. So you don't see the humanity, you don't see the difficulties or the personality, right? It's all a numbers game. Oh yeah, the embargo, sanctions, blah, blah, blah. Well, that doesn't mean anything. You have to say, well, it costs, $80 for a carton of eggs, $100 for milk. You know, and I had a basic breakfast, and that cost me about $30. And these are very expensive, you know, for Cubans. You know, it's just that's the reality.
Yes, I remember in the state enterprise, every month the salary was like $30, basically. Still like that. $30, 35, 40, 50. That's a good salary in Cuba. Imagine. that's food in any restaurant, for example.
You know, I think another way to put it in perspective, yeah. I have a friend, he just retired, he's a professor in Cuba. He earns 3,000 Cuban pesos per month, but he has to pay 1,000 Cuban pesos for a carton of eggs. So that's a significant part of his salary. And that's the reality. And he's on the high end of the salary. So think about what it's like for the rest of the Cuban population. And so that's one thing I hope more and more Americans will see. And maybe that's something we can work with Jacob, you know, Bill, you know, Megan on. It's just more Americans need to see this aspect of the embargo's effect on the Cuban people. You know, I've this one story, and this bothered me. I was having dinner at a restaurant in Havana, and I saw a table. I saw 3 Americans. They're just drinking beer. Then they got up one by one, and they tried to sneak out of the restaurant without paying their bill. And one of the waiters stopped them and said, "Look, senor, here's your bill." And the guy said, "Oh, I was going to come back," and we know he wasn't going to come back. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, Americans, they could have afforded it, but
It's unnecessary.
it's unnecessary. And
it means a lot to the owner.
Yes, well,
The
not just
people working there.
Yeah, the people working there, the waiter would have had to have paid for the whole bill, and this was just really too bad. And I hope, you know, when more and more Americans go back to Cuba, that they don't do this, because that's just wrong on so many different levels. But you know, I'm still optimistic that things can get better. We just don't know when. I hope they do. Anyway, that's enough of me. I'm talking a lot. Any other questions, or Katia? Any final comments, observations?
No, it's been a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy, and very nice to meet you, Jacob and Bill, Megan. I can't see you, but I'm very happy to meet you all and to share with you this space. And of course, if you want to know something else, Tom, I think you can give them my contact or any.
Yes, it's not a problem. I can forward you the the question answer sessions. But here's the 2 projects that Katia leads: El Pitch, which is a great podcast, and La Penúltima Casa, which she just talked about. And so I will forward you the links so you can take a look at this at some point. And certainly the conversation doesn't end here. We can talk about this a little bit further. I'm just going to, before we conclude, I just want to let you know, next up we have Matt Panates. He's from a long way home. He founded this school, a project in Guatemala. He's a wonderful person. He'll be joining us today at 2. So certainly, if you can join us, great. If not, we're going to be recording it, just like we're recording this. And then finally, for anyone interested, if you want to learn more about our Global Thoughts programming, just go to broadia.com/global-thoughts. Again, I can email this to you, and you can learn about all the future speakers that we're going to be having. And then finally, Katia, again, gracias. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. I'm glad to spend more time with you and learn more about the wonderful work that you're doing. I'm happier that more people got to know you. And I think that's the important thing, is we want to see people get to know you and learn a little bit more about you, and let's see what other collaborations we can do. And Jacob, maybe we'll see you, Bill and Megan there in Havana sometime. So, okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Katia. Again, thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Jacob, Bill, Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
We'll be in touch. Katia, thank you. And I'll talk to you very soon. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.